Hi, welcome to my No BS Gear Review channel. Tonight we're looking at this OTF and I'm going to give you one chance to guess who makes it. If you said, it's Chaves, you are correct. No, this is not the traditional Chaves box, but as Ramon personally told me, even though the knife is entirely made in the US, it was difficult to get the traditional Chaves box here in time for the release of this knife. I don't mind, you know how I feel about fancy boxes on this channel, which didn't stop me from asking Ramon for an autograph to compensate for the lack of the box. Obviously all of this was happening at Atlanta Blade Show of 2025. And while I'm not in my studio, I do have a couple knives that I can compare it to in size. And this is truly a full-size OTF. Here's a Microtech Luminary ZBP OTF, a knife in the center of the current beef between Microtech and the creator of the next comparison knife, Hawk Talon, with a deadlock. And those photos represent the fact that I begged both companies to put their differences aside and let the community enjoy their knives in person. Another familiar knife that I had with me is this 940 Osborne by Benchmade, a company with the bragging rights of employing the nicest and the most humblest person in the whole knife community. And please forgive me for this shameless self-promotion. All these busy, hard-working folks in the photos are actually watching my videos. So, with humility and appreciation, I'm asking you to subscribe to my channel. And here's Kershaw Bel Air clip, and just for fun, Spyderco McBee. Alright, it's time to take my rosy glasses off and talk about this knife. The Dissident I was able to snatch came in what Ramon calls road rash finish. Not sure if this finish will be available in production, or is it just a Blade Show special? And I'm talking about the finish. The knife should be available when this video comes out. If you had any doubts, let me assure you, this is a Chaves knife through and through. Boxy demeanor, aggressive jimping, high raised sliding switch, clearly designed for a gloved hand of a construction worker, but also with safety in mind because this blade is deeply recessed. There's no chance of you catching the tip. The clip is beautiful. There is no external hardware screwed in from the inside. And this knife definitely has a demeanor of a hard-working beater. And by the way, the finish is not graphical. They actually sanded down the finish on the handle to create this look. T8 hardware all around. And I am about to open this knife because I felt like the switch was a little too tight on the deploy. Not a problem on the retraction, but it felt like I'm hitting some kind of friction spot on the deploy. So I want to open this knife, take a look inside, and see what's going on. Is it an actual issue, or is it something that's going to wear in very quickly? It's definitely not a fidget toy. It feels like a hard-working tool. But that said, nobody wants to lose skin on their thumb. The knife is constructed of aluminum and the blade is S35 VN. There's nothing on the blade, no markings whatsoever. The only indication that this is a Chaves is the skull clip. It does not come with a basic clip. And actually, I like that. If you don't like skulls, don't buy a Chaves. That's my position, and it has been for a while. So I'm making sure I'm not going to lose any springs or anything like that. It opened up very easily. There's no spring behind the switch. I like that too. Fewer parts, fewer failure points. A double spring engine here. And yes, I call these assemblies engines because it harkens back to siege engines of the ancient world. The frame of the engine is made out of steel, and there is evidence of some kind of heat treatment in production. This is how it sits in the front scale. That slightly golden-ish finish on the engine frame looks like they might have had it in the furnace, either to harden it or to temper it after working it into the shape. The stop pin on the blade does not come out. That's what I was trying to establish here. The blade just simply slides forward. And the knife has traditional stopping gates to lock it in the open and closed position. The stopping pin is secured to the blade via a T8 screw, and the blade has a dual finish. Sandblast on the primary bevels, there are two primary bevels, oxymoron here, and satin finish on the flat parts. My next step is to examine all the metal components to see the wear patterns. You see this knife was on the display, that was the last one they had. So it was handled a couple times. I figure maybe 16 to 25,000 deploys. And what's interesting, there's almost no lubrication. There's a little bit of a lithium grease. And so I see some striations, little scratches here and there where the metal is contacting some other component and wearing out. And this knife doesn't have a lot of lube. So that could be the reason for its deploying kind of on the tough side. Well, fear not, even though I didn't bring any lube with me, my plan was to borrow some of the lithium grease that typically is present on most new OTFs, but there is just not enough to borrow here. So I resort to my expedient method. I'm in a hotel, the soap is available. It's a good non-corrosive, non-intrusive lubricant. So I am just going to apply it to the parts that I think are causing this tightness. So literally just scraping some soap on the metal components here, just to make sure that all the engagement surfaces, don't try to remove metal. I might even do a little bit here on the bottom. Now, this is not going to harm the mechanism in any way. And if I feel like it starts gunking up later, very easily removed. This knife will be very easy to maintain because the assembly and disassembly is basically minimized for the user's convenience. Let me do this a little bit here, just a little bit, just in case on the stop pin I see some wear pattern forming here, just a little, and like I said, just a little bit, and the soap is not even, like, it's not wet. So hotel soaps have lotions built into them, and that's what going to create proper lubrication here, at least for a while. So now we're going to reinsert the blade. Very easy. You have to kind of move the gate. This is the stop gate. Be very careful. Do whatever you can possibly, humanly can, not to let it pop out. And these are not tending to pop out. Very well recessed and good design here. Now let's do a little bit over here as well. Yeah. So now we can drop in the engine. Make sure that the rail on the switch fits into the slot and also engages the little stud here on the engine frame, and it moves freely now. And while you're holding it in place like so, drop in the cover, the front cover here. Make sure it's aligned with the screws. You can actually test the knife in this position by holding firmly here and actuating the switch. I already feel a slight improvement, and it should get better over time. So you see the way they cut out the engine frame, it seems like they laser cut it, and the edges are just a little bit sharp. Typically, and you know, I don't want to like make any recommendations about breaking those edges. I think what needs to wear out or wear down to smooth out will smooth out eventually on its own. So breaking sharp edges by sanding them down or running a deburring tool yields some risks. You don't want to do that because you are risking to remove too much metal somewhere where now it starts disengaging when you hard use the knife. So just a little break and lube, soap in this case. Feel free to make fun of me in the comments. I'm gonna go do my best to do some kind of crisscross pattern. I don't think there are rules that apply. Okay. Definitely feel the improvement. Again, retraction operation is a lot softer than the deployment. But I think we got somewhere with this. And speaking of getting somewhere, let's put it in the pocket, see how it works. It's clearly indicating to the world that you're carrying a Chaves with the skull head. Love it. Let's try the fifth pocket here. Well, it's a little bit too long for that, but the clip retains really well. Like I said, it's a working man's knife. The clip is tight, not crazy tight. Let's see if I can accidentally actuate the switch when reaching for something in the pocket. I can't even feel for the button with my fingers, but the experience may vary. And the button is so tight, I doubt you would actuate it by accident. Well, it's ready for the world, and it's time to go back to the blade show.